Young and the Restless spoilers reveal Faith accidentally overhears Sharon's terrible secret with Cameron. She notices Sharon's behavior is becoming increasingly erratic, and Faith finds herself spending more time with her mother, trying to keep the peace. What Faith can't foresee is the shocking revelation that is about to turn her world upside down, forcing her to choose between loyalty to her family and doing the right thing. Faith overhears her mother arguing, not with someone in the room, but with herself, or so it seems at first. Faith has seen this before, Sharon talking to no one, her eyes distant, her voice filled with despair. Sharon's words are directed at someone. It doesn't take Faith long to realize that her mother isn't just talking to herself, she's talking to a ghost from her past, Cameron. Cameron Kirsten, a long-dead character, has become a nightmare in Sharon's life. Faith knew the stories, but to her, Cameron was just a story. Now, however, it was clear that Cameron still lived in her mother's mind, haunting her and fueling her worst impulses. The scariest thing was not that Sharon was talking to Cameron's ghost, but what she was confessing to him. Faith's blood ran cold as she listened in horror. Sharon was talking about Heather's death, the very death that had led to Daniel's arrest. Faith had always believed in Daniel's innocence. He was her friend, someone she trusted, and it had been absurd that he could commit such a crime. Now, everything began to make sense, though it was far more horrifying than Faith could have imagined. Sharon, in a frenzied state, admitted that she had set Daniel up. She had killed Heather and had gone to great lengths to hide her involvement, manipulating the evidence to incriminate Daniel. Cameron's voice, or Sharon believed it was Cameron's voice, urged her to go further, to make sure no one found out the truth. Faith couldn't believe what she was hearing. How could her mother do something so heinous? Faith stood frozen in place, unable to process the gravity of what she had just learned. Sharon had killed Heather, an innocent woman, and then fabricated evidence to make it seem like Daniel had done it. The weight of this revelation crushed Faith. She had always known her mother struggled with mental health issues, but this was something else entirely. Sharon had crossed a line from which there was no turning back. Faith's inner turmoil as the days passed, Faith found herself in an unbearable position. She knew what her mother had done, but she couldn't bring herself to go to the police, at least not yet. Faith loved her mother, but she also knew that what Sharon had done was unforgivable. How can she reconcile these two sides of herself, the side that wants to protect her family and the side that wants justice for Heather and Daniel? Faith begins to distance herself from Sharon, even as she spends more time with her daughter. Sharon, still lost in her delusions, barely notices the turmoil within her daughter. Faith tries to make sense of the situation, but nothing makes sense. How did things get this far? How did Sharon go from a loving mother to a potential killer? Faith considers the consequences of revealing the truth. If she exposes Sharon, it will tear her family apart. Her father, Nick, has just begun to reconnect with Sharon, and while Faith is unsure how she feels about them getting back together, she knows that this revelation will destroy any chance they have of ever being a family again. And what will happen to Lucy if Daniel stays in prison for a crime he did not commit? The stakes are too high to bear. Chance's investigation. Meanwhile, Chance Chancellor, the dog detective investigating the case, has uncovered new evidence. The case is starting to close in on Daniel, and it seems inevitable that he will be arrested for Heather's murder. Chance has found incriminating items in Daniel's house, items that make Daniel look guilty. But Faith knows better. She knows who is really responsible, and it's not Daniel. Faith watches helplessly as the walls close in on Daniel. She knows that time is running out. If Daniel is caught and convicted, he may never be able to clear his name. Faith has to do something, but the thought of becoming her own mother is too much for her to bear. Faith struggled with this decision, torn between her loyalty to her mother and the need to do the right thing. She couldn't believe Sharon was capable of murder, but the evidence was undeniable. Sharon had killed Heather and framed Daniel. Faith had heard the confession firsthand. She had seen the madness in her mother's eyes. In the end, Faith made the hardest decision of her life. She went to the police and told them everything she knew. It was a heartbreaking choice, but Faith knew it was the only way to bring justice to Heather and clear Daniel's name. She couldn't let an innocent man go to prison for a crime he didn't commit. Faith's decision would tear her family apart, but she knew it was the right thing to do. Sharon would have to face the consequences of her actions, and Faith would have to live with the guilt of turning her biological mother in. But no matter how hard it was, Faith knew she had done the right thing. The consequences will be devastating, but eventually, the truth must come out. And Faith, despite her young age, has the strength and courage to ensure that justice is served. Subscribe to Yonder for the latest news on our channel.